Hello and welcome to the Master's Voice, the podcast series of Mediabrief.com. I'm your host and friend Pavan R Chawla, and the master from the media and broadcasting space I have with me is someone I'm privileged to count amongst my dear friends from the industry, and we go quite some way back. This master from media and broadcast who's here with me today is, and please join me in welcoming him, Abe, as he is fondly called by his friends. His name is Abraham Thomas, CEO, Reliance Broadcast. Abe, welcome to the Master's Voice on Mediabrief.com.
Thank you, Pavan. Always a pleasure to chat with you. Look forward to a lively chat.
You're welcome, Abe, and thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
I'll take this opportunity to introduce you, Abraham Thomas. My guest expert today is Abraham Thomas, CEO of Reliance Broadcast, where he is custodian and champion of not only the wonderful private FM radio network of 92.7 BigFM, but also works for the entire radio industry together with all the other radio heads and the wonderful Association of Radio Operators of India, or AROI. Abe is a media brand specialist, digital media entrepreneur, audio evangelist, print, TV, digital radio business leader, and one of the most respected professionals in the radio business in India. Abe is a youth media and brand specialist with over 2 decades of experience in building and scaling youth media platforms like television, radio, digital, print in India, China, and South Asia. He's an experienced leader and entrepreneur with a proven track record of building and running large media businesses. Abraham Thomas brings deep knowledge of multimedia platforms of print, broadcasting, which is TV and radio, online and mobile, backed with over 15 years of hands-on leadership experience demonstrating the ability to build and scale businesses within a competitive environment. With Abe, building a robust organization and managing high-performance teams is an area of specialization. 20 plus years of leadership roles across media, which is TV, mass niche and specialty genres, radio where he built a leader brand, grew 3 radio networks to market leadership, and in print across distribution, brand and ad sales for regional and national publications. Abe has been there, accomplished that. So that's the stellar media professional I have in the Master's Voice for this episode. Abe, I hope you're looking forward to this chat.
Yes, absolutely, Pavan. Thank you so much for those kind words. This is putting a lot of pressure on me now.
Alright, so Abe, very briefly, let's also set some context first, slightly on the personal level, Describe Abe Thomas to me. Who is Abe Thomas and where does he come from into this media marketing advertising space today? Education, what did you first want to do, and whether you came into media by design or by accident and fell in love with it?
See, I think I have lived by the motto of always stepping out of my comfort zone. And so I've had a very varied career. Most people will be surprised that I actually graduated in pharmacy.
Wow.
And I did pharmacy because I missed my medical seat by a few marks. And then post that, I actually worked in a pharmaceutical manufacturing MNC for a year when I decided, no, manufacturing is not my scene. And then I actually did my MBA. Post my MBA out of campus, I got picked up to handle sales for paints. So I was selling paints in the Mumbai market. And then I got an opportunity to work as an executive assistant to the executive director of the company. I did that for 2 years, got an amazing experience in terms of overview of the entire organization, and it's a dream come true for a fresh MBA to be able to get that kind of an opportunity. With the executive director, we then moved into retailing, and I was part of the team that's probably set up the first supermarket in Mumbai way back in 1990.
Wow, which one was that?
This was Garware Supermarket.
Okay, right.
And post that is when I got an opportunity to join the Indian Express.
Okay.
So after pharmacy and pharma manufacturing to selling paints and then retail is when I joined the Indian Express Group as a brand manager.
Okay.
So that was my first job with media, and since then I've always been in media. Express is my alma mater, so I've kind of got groomed there. Amazing organization, amazing bosses.
Great. Indian Express has really given a lot of wonderful professionals. So, what were your main learnings there, Abe?
So I think as an organization, it's one of the most empowering organizations. My bosses actually taught me how to take decisions as though you own the company, right? I think that was the ownership level at which they built me.
Wonderful.
I got a chance to work in distribution. So I used to handle circulation for all the publications printed out of Mumbai. Then I moved into advertising sales for Mumbai and went on to head ad sales for the Indian Express Group.
Wow. How many years?
It was about 8 years that I spent at the Indian Express, and clearly laid the foundations for my career going forward.
Wonderful. I mean, if you look at radio today, where you've reached, radio is one of the most difficult media businesses to be in. I mean, if you can survive in radio, you can thrive in any other kind of media vertical. It's really, really very difficult. And I definitely don't think it's a 3, 4, 5 or even 8% kind of ADX deserving medium. And also, all the kind of sectors which you've traveled through to Indian Express and sales and then on to radio now are all the sectors that are the biggest ones that radio empowers today. So, a bit of full circle.
Absolutely. So the learning at the Indian Express, especially working with content, I had the opportunity to work with some amazing editors, and these were real intellectuals. And one had to take an effort to actually read up and be aware to have a conversation with them. You couldn't just go in and waltz in and waltz out. So it was a huge training ground for me. I learned to appreciate and understand content and how content gets created and distributed. One of my learnings has been that the content creation in print is where they take it really seriously. They create it themselves and then they distribute it.
Right.
Unlike television, where the creation is outsourced to a creative agency or a production house. So it's a huge learning. And post that, I got the opportunity to actually join television.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after Indian Express, I think you joined the company where we both met. So how many years after the Express did you come to Sony Entertainment Television?
So 8 years at the Indian Express. And post that is when I joined Sony Entertainment as sales head for the network.
Right.
So I got that opportunity to move from print to television. And interestingly, I always remember this. Mr. Bachchan and I joined television on the same day. 3rd of July, I joined the company, and 9 p.m. on 3rd night was when KBC got launched. And the rest was history. So,
Right.
So I worked in Sony for about 3 years before I moved to MTV and got an understanding and an opportunity to sell a very premium niche brand. And that was another amazing learning that kind of added a lot of value to me as a professional, and I really enjoyed
A lot of milestones, a lot of achievements. Wonderful career, AB.
Thank you.
And excellent achievements, milestones really. So tell me, after Sony, you went on to MTV. When did you enter radio, and what were the learnings that you brought with you when you got into radio?
Right. So from print to GEC mass channel to special interest premium channel like MTV, all these roles were sales roles. I was responsible for generating revenue. I was responsible for monetization of creative.
Right.
And in post MTV is when I got my first opportunity in general management when I joined Red FM as the COO. So a hardcore sales experience, selling to all kinds of advertisers. I suddenly got the opportunity into general management with Red FM. I believe my experience in sales, I must admit I'm not really the creative guy, but this experience in sales gave me a sense of monetization of creative.
Right.
So every time I hear a creative idea, I'm able to add value to it by saying, you know what, something like this could be of interest to client ABC or a category ABC. So that's the value I bring in to creative.
Correct. Your DNA is perfect for radio then.
Exactly. And also from the really small advertisers, which we call the long tail of advertisers, to the large national advertisers, I had an exposure, I had an experience selling to all these kinds of clients.
Wonderful. You're tuned to The Master's Voice, the podcast series of Mediabrief.com. I'm your host and friend Pavan R Chawla, and the master from the media and broadcasting space I have with me is Abraham Thomas, CEO of Reliance Broadcast. We'll cut for a break and be back very shortly. And we are back. With me is Abraham Thomas, CEO of Reliance Broadcast. Abe, tell me about the radio industry today. Where does it stand? This lockdown has really hit everybody very, very hard.
Yep.
And radio is really like a business where in Hindi they say roz kuan khodo, roz pani piyo. You have to bore your well for drinking water every single day. How has radio coped? When the lockdown began, I think BigFM was the first which quickly swung into work from home. And you, together with AROI and in discussion with all the others, you all sort of helped one another to adopt this work from home model. But what did you do, Abe? What did BigFM do? When did you decide to get literally into working from home?
I think this was around the 13th of March when we decided that things are not getting better. And my fundamental concern was the safety of my employees. And fortunately, we have a brilliant tech and admin team who have built some kind of a disaster management plan.
Okay.
And they kind of said we can seamlessly move to a work from home, wherein we can continue to go live and but still kind of work out of the comforts of our own home.
Quick question here, Abe. I've been listening to a lot of radio networks, all of whom are, working from home. I still sense a solid effervescence of immediacy, the near live kind of quality on Big FM. And I seem to sense that some of the others, I won't say all or many, but some of the other networks that I have listened to, they have this antiseptic and controlled, pre-recorded kind of feel to the entire interaction of the presenter and the radio content with the listeners. So how do you maintain this, keep this near live effervescence of FM radio presentation at Big FM?
We, I believe, were one of the first adopters of this, what we keep saying, the new normal. We figured out that this is not a short-term kind of situation, but it's going to kind of take long. So right from the beginning, our mindset was, we have to continue business. We have to stay open for business. We should be there for our listeners. And therefore, let us find the best way to do that. We realized that the technology to do this is available.
Right.
Had we gone in and saying, okay, this is a temporary thing, so we will play music or we'll do some stopgap thing, we'd probably been struggling with this problem. But because we said, hey, assuming we have to do this for a longer period of time, how best can we do it? How can we ensure that there are caller interactions? How can we ensure that there are different productions that play out seamlessly on the channel? And then we realized that the technology for this exists. It is a mindset that needed to change. So if I were to just give you a brief on the tech part of it, using a microphone and a sound card, the jock is able to now go live from his home. It's very real, which is why you get that sense of effervescence, because it's real. So if you tune in now, it is Wednesday afternoon when they are talking to you, and it is Wednesday afternoon. It's not pre-recorded content. And using VPN, the same computer, his laptop is connected to our server, through which it enters the broadcast system and gets into transmission. So within a few minutes delay, you're able to get the same live experience.
And you'll also honor the set of rules which says that nothing can go live. It does have to go through your own little pre-recorded delay Which is what? How much?
There is a delay in this for security reasons. I think it is 6 seconds is the minimum delay that you got to provide for.
Oh, wow.
So that there is no security hazard when you are going live.
No ambush on content or whatever.
Absolutely.
And then therefore you are held responsible completely for whatever you put out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's wonderful. I mean, such short, less than a minute kind of delay.
For me, I think it was the quick early adoption of the fact, right? Obviously, it was disrupted. Let me look at the positive side of this. See, for the last 2 years, we have been preparing for a certain change. Look, change is impending. Digital is growing. So let us now get geared for that change. But that was a very slow, gradual change, and there's inertia. You're doing well in what you're doing. So what is the need to kind of venture into stuff that's out of your comfort zone? What this has done is this has forced change. Suddenly, because we had to do it, we have realized that, hey, maybe there is a need and it is possible to reimagine radio. The current radio structure and model has evolved in the early 2000s. 15 years later, in a new digital world, it is possible to reimagine the whole model.
Right. How did the pandemic force you to, and what kind of changes did it bring about in the way radio is looked at and listened to, promoted and pushed out not only by marketing, but the most important part of radio, which is the business side of radio?
So I will answer this in 3 parts.
Okay.
I think the first thing I keep, the kind of momentum we managed to build, I keep wondering what are the things that we did right. Okay, I think the first thing that we did was this whole winning attitude. We are determined and stubbornly optimistic.
Okay.
We know this is a change and this change will eventually be for the better. We know there's an immediate setback and there's obviously going to be a drastic reduction in business. And in Q1, actually, I think there's a almost negative 70% that the radio industry had to go through.
Right.
The next, I think, that really worked for us is the early adoption. And in our head, we said, so what if you can't work out of your studios? Today, I believe that we can do whatever we need to do for our listeners, for our advertisers, without getting into the studio.
Right.
So there is no concern that, now I can't do this because I'm not working out of an office. The other thing I think that really works for us and the kind of momentum we have built as an organization is our entire approach of putting people first. All right. We have huge daily continuous engagement with the team. So for example, I'm going to share with you, we do this morning show called Onward and Upward. It's every morning, 10 a.m. It's almost like a morning assembly when about 250 people gather on a call and we listen to experts. We listen to experts who share insights, who share their challenges. It gives you a great understanding of different industries. It gives you lots of ideas in terms of what's really happening out there across industries. I'm very happy to say that on completing 100 episodes of this morning show, we are extremely thrilled that we've actually managed to get Subhashji to kind of come and address us. So that's how this morning show has actually rolled out for us. And it's a huge thing that binds the people together. It gets everybody engaged and everybody motivated. So this morning show has bound the team together. We have numerous engagement activities that we do with the team in addition to this. For example, we realized we have something called e-wellness, where twice a week we have psychiatrists, therapists who come and talk to the team on different aspects. It could be on relationships, it could be on abuse, it could be the other stuff. It is so that help is available for people to reach out to.
Okay.
We've got happy hours where we have different kinds of fun engagement activities. So every evening, not every evening, most evenings after 6 p.m.,
right,
we have some kind of engagement touchpoint, which gets the team together. So the challenges of working from home are completely different.
What about, no, I can't speak about happy hours for advertisers. I guess you have to give most of the happy hours to them in a space and economy or state of economy right now, which is so badly crunched and restricted.
Absolutely.
You're tuned to The Master's Voice, the podcast series of Mediabrief.com. I'm your host and friend Pavan R Chawla, and the master from the media and broadcasting space I have with me is Abraham Thomas, CEO of Reliance Broadcast. We'll cut for a break and be back very shortly. And we are back. With me is Abraham Thomas, CEO of Reliance Broadcast. Abe, how has this lockdown, in brief, impacted the radio industry?
So it has been quite dramatic. I think there was, like I said, a 70% degrowth in quarter one. The good part is that there is an improvement week on week. So in July and August, we are seeing a bounce back slowly and gradually. There are certain categories which have really begun to start advertising.
Okay.
Categories like banking and financial services, like FMCGs, mainly the personal products and hygiene products, to ready-to-eat food. Auto sector is beginning to see some action. Education is seeing action. E-commerce is seeing action. So there are fair amount of categories which are now beginning to start activity. And the other aspect is this growth is getting driven from your tier 2 and tier 3 markets.
Wow.
Right? So it's kind of helping this. And because this lockdown and unlockdown is staggered, a local medium like radio is benefiting. Because now you can target your message to that city where you want to push your product. So it's kind of adding to that.
So all stations of BigFM are absolutely fully functional and working from home.
That's right. We operate 58 stations and all 58 stations are live.
Wonderful.
So I must say here that what we do is, even before COVID, we had certain hub stations which service the smaller cities and smaller stations around that. So that continues. So you might take Pune, and then from Pune you will service 2-3 other stations in the vicinity, maybe Nagar, maybe Kolhapur, and so on and so forth. So the hub station continues, but all of them are live and running.
The listeners are not shortchanged anywhere at all.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. So you told me how you all started working from home and what you've been doing for all your employees and people working from home. So what did you do for your listeners, the other very important constituent for you, and how did that reflect in your listenership?
Pavan, as you know, radio ranks very high on trust and credibility.
Right.
Each of our radio jockeys are influencers in their respective cities, and the audience kind of looks up to them to give them correct information. So one of our first tasks was to make sure that only correct, accurate information is shared with them. We played a big part in calming them down in terms of telling them what to do. We told them that we are working from home, so you also please work from home because that's the need of the hour.
Right.
And we played soothing music with our timeless music format that we anyway have. And we kind of upped the entertainment quotient on one side. Okay. So we kept them engaged, we kept them calm, we kept them positive, and didn't indulge in any kind of sensationalism or any kind of provocative content, because radio doesn't do that.
Right.
So huge number of activities we did, online concerts, hunts, different things, but everything that you could participate sitting in the comfort of your home.
So how has that impacted your listenership ratings?
So it has actually helped us tremendously because I think the other advantage has also been that we are seeing is very clearly that there is a shift towards nostalgia in this period. So therefore, timeless music that we play again appeals to a lot of people. We obviously programmed our music accordingly because now we know that people are listening much longer than they used to, and therefore we had more variety. But we got the whole music proposition going as well.
So what has TSL gone up on radio too right now?
It's gone up by 28%. I think it's about 2.5 hours. There's a 28% growth in time spent listening based in TSL as per the AROI study which we commissioned to understand this.
Right.
So we've also been seeing that with increased engagement, increased response to everything that we're throwing on air through social media, through other interactions that we've encouraged. So very clearly, radio I clearly say this is probably radio's finest hour.
Wonderful.
At a time when the relevance of radio was getting questioned by some people, this is the time that we actually got really close. And interestingly, if you look at research, 52% of radio listening happens on the mobile phone.
Okay.
So while some people might think, and the 16-17% is the listening which is happening in cars.
Okay.
So because the device is on a mobile phone, people continue to listen to radio even when they were not stepping out of home. And which is why overall both reach and TSL went up during this period. And I'm saying this drive time as a concept is a very television concept which is kind of spilled over onto radio.
That's right.
Fact is, radio listening happens through the day.
Right.
So it's been a really good time for radio, and we've been fortunate to kind of really ride this wave. And the last 6-8 weeks, if you look at the RAM ratings in the 4 metros, clearly BigFM is right up there. In fact, for the 4 metros combined, we are the number one station for the last 6-8 weeks.
Oh yes, I've seen all the releases and the mailers. Congratulations on that though.
Thank you.
You're tuned to The Master's Voice, the podcast series of Mediabrief.com. I'm your host and friend Pavan R Chawla, and the master from the media and broadcasting space I have with me is Abraham Thomas, CEO Reliance Broadcast. We'll cut for a break and be back very shortly. And we are back. With me is Abraham Thomas, CEO Reliance Broadcast. Now, tell me about the industry, Abe. Some of the most long-standing problems still continue. DAVP doesn't pay up the radio operators on time for the ads that they run. The licensing fees are still as oppressively high as they ever were. News, again, is not available for you as a content format to use. So, where are we going with this? I mean, it's been such a long time that these problems have been there staring all of us in the face.
The way I see it, we have definitely made progress. Sure, in the first phase 1 specifically, there were a lot of issues. And then the early part of phase 2, there were some issues, especially with respect to music rights and all of that. But the good thing is, we have kind of gotten better and better. We've been in continuous touch with the government, and there has been a lot of stepwise relaxation that has happened with time. Yes, could it have been faster? Can lots more be done? Of course it can be. But I can clearly see that this whole thing is getting better. And over the last few years, radio has emerged as a fairly profitable business. Of course, COVID has completely kind of changed that scenario, but I believe that will take some time for us to get out of. But we have made substantial progress. Even for news and current affairs, now we are allowed to carry bulletins from All India Radio as news capsules. So it has progressively gotten better.
And you said that things have improved on the space of the problems that radio has traditionally been facing as an industry. So what were the slight improvements and what more can be done?
See, a lot more can be done, but if you were to just pull back and see, there is fair amount of progress in the way radio has evolved, and a lot more needs to be done, and there is a continuous consultation with the government departments to try and get it has gotten better.
So what got better?
Everything, whether the license fee moving into a rev share, whether it is the music royalty issue, whether it is other issues, it has slowly but surely gotten better.
Right. So do you think a good takeout from this entire concerted, united effort on the part of all the radio operators under or with the AROI, do you think it has shown that the radio industry, formerly everybody guarding their own little corner, has now come together and gotten far more united in terms of tackling these problems for the betterment of the entire industry?
Absolutely. I think COVID has managed to do that, just like it got Apple and Google to work together.
Oh, yes.
It got all the players to actually kind of put their heads together. There is a continuous dialogue and discussion happening with the government for some kind of relief during this period. There is obviously large number of jobs which are at stake. A 70% degrowth is not something that the industry can take.
Absolutely.
Huge degrowth in government spending, another big blow. Timely payments from the government, again big challenge. So there are huge challenges with us. But I'm an eternal optimist. I can clearly see it getting better quarter on quarter. And one of the big things I think for me, and I've always been a believer that while these reliefs and these benefits that we need are absolutely critical for a lot of us to stay alive, I believe that the only way that the sector will get out of this is we evangelize the media more and get more advertisers to come onto radio. And I'm happy to say that the ARI is also driving a radio evangelization campaign.
Okay.
So for the last 6-8 weeks, you must have seen it. We've been releasing data from AdX.
Yes. Ads and flyers, data. Yes, absolutely.
And seeing the categories which are growing and seeing the listenership in those. To communicate to advertisers that the young are listening, the old are listening, men are listening, women are listening, and teens are listening, and so on and so forth. And we are also showing data of how some of those advertisers are really taking advantage of this.
Right.
Given the local reach of radio, I really believe that radio can really help in revival of demand for a lot of categories because it's so staggered.
So if all of you, your league of extraordinary gentlemen and ladies, were to come together and really say, look, if we all put our collective shoulders to the wheel and really do everything that radio deserves, all right, where do you think in terms of percentage of AdX could radio actually see itself in maybe 5 years?
See, currently we have been hovering around the 4% kind of range.
Correct. 4 to 5.
Yeah, for a variety of reasons. Sure, digital has grown, and while the revenues in digital audio are very, very small even today, but it's clearly a period of change.
Okay.
What radio is doing very successfully, very aggressively, is this whole seamlessly integrating radio with digital.
Right.
So all of us have very active social media presence. We have a lot of online extensions, like we recently launched Bro live radio online offering. And we are getting advertisers to now amplify their message across things. So for me, radio and digital is the new normal, right?
Right.
Another thing that BigFM has done is that we have close to 20 different partnerships that we have entered into with other platforms
like
digital streaming apps, television, and all these partnerships are available to our clients. So we can actually reach out to an incremental 15 crore consumers by taking the partnerships in play. So partnerships is another way through which we are driving amplification of radio. So the way I'm seeing it is that while pure radio per se is in the 4 to 5% range, because of the expanding offering that we are giving, we'll be able to attract substantially higher revenue.
Okay.
Radio, the power of storytelling is getting recognized by a lot of brands.
Okay.
Most brands want integration of their message into the content. So all those areas are opening up.
Do you want to break up for us? I mean, we were speaking about this before we started recording, and I really liked your thought on the phases of the pandemic. So why don't you share that with our listeners?
Sure. So the way I see it is that the first phase was the phase of containment. This is where things were really bad. And like I told you, there's a 70% degrowth in Q1. And the objective at that time was to be there for our employees. The objective at that time was to be there for our clients.
Okay.
So we were with them, and we were kind of saying that we are with you. If you want to reach out to your consumer without really worrying about the commercials, we were there. I believe that containment cycle is over.
Okay.
We have entered the next stage, which is the recovery stage. Week on week, there is an increase in the radio addicts.
Okay.
More and more brands are beginning to start advertising. Like I said, this is getting driven out of the tier 2 and tier 3 markets.
Okay.
The emerging markets are far quicker to rebound than the metro markets.
Okay.
And post this is when I believe stage 3 will be when we get into the phase of normalization, which is when we are hoping that we will be able to get back to last year's base numbers.
Okay.
And stage 4 is obviously the phase of growth, which will come post that. So the good news is from containment, we have now entered the recovery phase.
And this 70% deficit, how much time?
So my estimate is we will get to a 50% level in this quarter.
Pre-COVID levels. Oh, that's wonderful.
And then we have the October to December quarter when we could get to H2. We are all optimistic that October to March will get you close to the normal levels. So that's what we are expecting. But the good phase is right now we are clearly in recovery and it's getting better month on month.
You're tuned to The Master's Voice, the podcast series of Mediabrief.com. I'm your host and friend Pavan R Chawla, and the master from the media and broadcasting space I have with me is Abraham Thomas, CEO Reliance Broadcast. We'll cut for a break and be back very shortly. And we are back. With me is Abraham Thomas, CEO Reliance Broadcast. So Abe, let's talk about some more personal stuff. What is it that drives you? What is your, God, this sounds like a cliche, but I have to ask you this. What is your mantra? Your mantra for keeping going and finding positives in such terrible disasters like COVID. What keeps you going, COVID or no COVID?
See, I think this pandemic has a lot of positives. One is it's forced us to change. It's also helped most of us to attain a certain level of balance.
Okay.
We have seen the futility of some of the things that we were chasing earlier. And we've seen that, it's kind of brought a certain balance to our life.
Okay.
A lot of these things, like you said, are not in our control.
Sure.
Right? It's about how best you deal with it and how best you get prepared with the new normal. So I think that peace, that calmness, which I have personally kind of attained, is helping me think more clearly.
Okay.
Sure, things are bad. I mean, I'm not saying that things are back to normal. By no means. We're not out of the woods as yet.
Right.
But I think there is an absolute need for us to be grateful on a daily basis for all the things that we have. Think more about your week and at best your month. Right? Because it's very difficult to kind of think beyond that because things are not in your control.
Okay.
For me, at a work level, I think I've always believed in this mantra of the 3 P's, which is product, people, and process. I think the BigFM brand is delivering on its promise. We want to be thought inspirers. We are trying to unlock optimism. We are trying to get people to start thinking in a different manner.
Okay.
And a lot of our content is now in that whole place, trying to create purpose. You have a larger purpose to exist. And as radio, we have the influence. So we believe we should help in getting people to think differently.
Okay.
I've always been a people person and I've been very fortunate to work with the most amazing team. And the commitment of our people and the harmony with which they work makes all the difference between winning and losing.
Okay.
And the third is the process. It's finally, this business is, and my people approach is based on complete trust.
Okay.
For me, I very closely monitor output.
Okay.
Right? Because for me, if your inputs are right and the process is right, output has to happen.
Sure.
And you'll keep tweaking the process or changing the inputs to make sure that the output happens. But this whole work from home, working remote, requires a lot of trust.
Right. Yep.
Right? And a lot of people are not able to trust because they say that, let me call him at 9 in the evening because I'm sure he's sleeping. Or let me call him on a Saturday or a Sunday because I don't think he's doing anything. That's because you don't trust the guy. But if you have systems to monitor his output, he will automatically start delivering. So for example, one of the things that we realized right early is that your day, all of us were working much, much longer hours. The day would start at 7 in the morning and would not end till 11 p.m.
Right.
So now we are very clear. No meeting. The first meeting can't be before 10 a.m. and the last meeting can't be after 7 p.m. Yes, exceptions, urgent stuff will happen, which are exceptions, which we'll obviously do. But this, and I've also said that at least 60% of your meetings have to be pre-scheduled.
Right.
Otherwise, because the person's at home, it's on a Sunday, says, like, let's call it two people and let's quickly do a thing. If it's an emergency, sure. But most of the time, we are working from 6 a.m. till 11 p.m., including Saturdays and Sundays, right? So I think so that people management and the right process is equally important, which kind of puts a certain sanity on it. And this then helps you pull back and think, saying, okay, what can I do differently? Like, one of the things that is forced on us to be digital first. All of us were paying lip service to the whole digital first initiative. But now, in really good time, we actually refurbished and relaunched Buy Ads on BigFM.com. Now, this is based on two insights. One is radio has worked on the Pareto principle of saying 20% of my advertisers contribute 80% of my revenue. So let me really focus on the 20% of my advertisers.
Right.
In this slowdown, and even prior to that, this 20% is not spending. They are seeing the biggest cut. So it is important to focus on your
other
balance 80% this.
Right.
Second is Google and Facebook have shown us that there is such a large number of small, medium scale advertisers who are beginning to advertise. So, which is why Buy Ads on BigFM allows you to buy online, allows you to give a brief, get a creative solution, we'll create a production, you can listen to it and pay and fulfill the whole thing. So that's another digital initiative. We said this is mandatory now, right? If you want to reach out to the large MSMEs and the trust that as a country we are giving on MSMEs, that's an opportunity area. So that's happened.
You also launched live radio, right?
Absolutely, yes, we did.
So tell us about that.
Yeah. So again, this we thought is that given the whole change in consumption habits of media, obviously online is a very convenient and growing medium for a lot of the audience, which is why we said, let us create Big Radio Online. Big Radio Online is clearly targeted younger. Big FM kind of targets a more mature audience. And we said, let's create Big Radio Online targeted younger. It's live radio. It has a lot of local updates from each of our stations across the country. And it has lots of content which will resonate with the young audience. So that's how Bro came about, right? And now Bro is like getting a lot of traction. It is becoming available on a lot of partner platforms, and we see that becoming another avenue for advertisers.
Right. And what about podcasts?
Right. So podcasts, again, we see as a great way to amplify our reach, get our content available to new audiences. And over the years, Big FM has created some fabulous, timeless content. See, podcast by definition has to be timeless because it is something that you can listen to whenever you want, right?
Absolutely.
So now we did a large deal with Spotify. So a lot of our content is now available on Spotify.
Are you repurposing it and giving it a head and tail so that it remains timeless?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
And so Anu Kapoor's show, Nilesh Mishra's show, a lot of our shows are now available on podcast, and which means it automatically gets available on smart speakers.
Right.
So you can tell Alexa, give me a Nilesh Mishra story.
Right.
And Alexa is able to pick it up from Spotify and play it for you.
And lots of cross-promotion avenues also.
Absolutely. So that's what we've done to kind of amplify our content and expose it to newer audience.
Wonderful. So anything else that I may not have asked you, Abe, that you want to tell us about Big FM, about the times, about, when you go back or when things really open up, how will things change in the newer and probably definitely far more permanent normal with new things? I mean, will you get everybody back into the physical infrastructures of offices, or will you say, okay, you know what, 25% can actually continue to work from home, save on overheads, and give you far more, let's say, ROI and efficiencies that are greater?
Absolutely. This has again given us the realization that there is a need to reimagine the medium, reimagine the way the operations are run, and we are moving to a hot desking model.
Right.
Wherein everyone doesn't need to come to work every single day. There are facilities available, there are meeting rooms available, there are studios available. So if you need to come there and do a recording, get guests there, that can be done. If you want meetings with clients and other stuff, that can be done. If you want interaction with your creative teams and brainstorming, that can be done. So we're kind of evolved a smart working model, which we call hot desking, wherein you're right, it's, going forward 30 to 50% of your people could kind of work in that model. They all have access to the infrastructure when they need it, but they don't have to come 8 to 10 hours every day without fail.
Yes, absolutely.
Another thing, Pavan, we've realized is all of us are saving at least 3 hours of commute on a daily basis. Right?
Absolutely.
It's giving you so much more time to do stuff that you want to do.
Correct. And the traffic jams and the mad headless chicken kind of rushes that happen to and from work.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
See, one of the things that we miss is that, especially in a creative environment, when you walk around the office, when you bump into people, there are thoughts exchanged. That creative juice, which comes from the physical contact, is something that you miss. While we try hard to replicate that in a online con call method, but online by and large is more structured. So here in office, when I'm walking in and I bump into Rajesh in the corridor, and he tells me, hey, this thing happened today. And I say, oh shit, can we do something out of it? So that creative brainstorming is something you miss, which is why you need a physical office. So I'm not saying that you can completely do away without that, but I think we will all evolve to a more hybrid kind of model where there'll be enough scope for physical interactions and team dynamics and creativity to flourish. And a lot of the routine, mundane stuff can get done online. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, last question, AB. What is your message to all the radio professionals, not just at BigFM, but across the country?
So I'm a big believer in radio. I think radio is already evolving into audio, into voice. We are seeing the digital part of radio is one part of it, but there is a lot of interest in audio. For example, in automobiles. Now, in cars, the FM is already part of the original car that you get, thanks to a radio in every car. But what the voice is allowing brands to do is to customize it even further. So every time you open the door, you can say, good morning, Pavan, where would you like to go today? And you can have a voice that does that, right? Voice is moving into your refrigerator. This is a huge world of audio and voice that's opening up.
Absolutely.
So the new radio, and which is what I call audio, is not FM alone. FM will obviously be the dominant part of it because of the reach and the hyperlocal advantages of the medium. But there are all these parts which are opening as voice and as the digital ecosystem merge. So it's a great space to be, and I think the future for audio is huge. While video is booming, audio is also growing, right? So it's a great space to be, and don't get married to the kind of radio you did a few years ago, the kind of radio that is required today. The kind of expectation that the customer has from you has changed. And the listener, I'm saying they are no longer listeners because they are also, thanks to social media, they are also viewing you. They're no longer pure two-dimensional listeners that they used to be. Video is an integral part of audio now, thanks to social. So it's a very exciting space, and I'm very optimistic that this medium will evolve into something much larger.
Wonderful. So that has been Abraham Thomas speaking with me, Pavan R Chawla, your host and friend on Mediabrief.com's podcast series, The Master's Voice. Thank you ever so much, Abe. I absolutely loved the insights in the session and conversation. And I'm sure that everyone who's listening to this episode also will definitely agree with me. Thank you very much, Abe. Any thoughts on our conversation on the Mediabrief.com podcast, The Master's Voice?
Thank you so much, Pavan. Always a pleasure talking to you, and more power to you. Clearly what you're doing is great, and in terms of the kind of growth that you will see, because this medium is booming. You're in a great space. I'm seeing all the good work that you're doing, partnering with all the events, being part of the whole growing audio ecosystem. So more power to you and all the very best.
Thank you very much indeed, Abe. So that was Abraham Thomas, CEO Reliance Broadcast, where he is custodian and champion of not only the wonderful private FM radio network of 92.7 Big FM, but also works for the entire radio industry together with all the other radio heads and the wonderful Association of Radio Operators of India, or AROI, for this wonderful subsector of radio which truly deserves to grow. Thank you very much indeed for listening in. Till we meet again in the next episode of The Master's Voice with another master from the media, marketing, broadcasting industry, this is your host and friend Pavan R Chawla saying, stay safe, but do come back. Bye-bye.